remember a time when you're sitting at the dais like this over in Solana Beach. Remember that? That was fun. Michael, are these students or people just doing their community service?
So that, you could fire up the old, the big radio thing and listen to the, like we did in the 50s. Doing voiceovers,
I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of the Commission for the Arts for the City of Encinitas on Monday, February 6th at 5:02 p.m. We'll begin with a call to order and a roll call.
Let the record show all commissioners are present except for Commissioner Hebert and Fox.
Please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we have no special presentations or proclamations, and I believe we do have some oral communications.
Yes, we have two. I'll call your name and you can come to the podium, and just remember you have 3 minutes to speak and address the commission. The first speaker will be Jim Bobway, followed by Ed Kuntz.
Good afternoon. Rodney Scow couldn't be here today, but he sent a message, and it has to do with Michael's last day of service as an arts commissioner, and here it is. As Michael Corrales Schmidt finally finishes out his sentence as an Encinitas Commissioner of Arts, I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you a few things about Michael that you may or may not know. I've known Michael for all of the 21st century, and I really have no clue as to whatever it was he committed that resulted in this sentence. That would be Michael's business and none of my own. Now that he has successfully paid his debt to the community and to society, I'm reminded of his arrival. Not long after Michael appeared here in Encinitas, he fell in with artists who wandered aimlessly around this town as well as some neighboring communities. Like other members of the group, he was rootless. Maybe you remember the little plastic cups they carried. Although these cups were designed for use by babies and toddlers who weren't yet ready for Capri Sun juices or tequila, the cups were multicolored. They were diverse. In addition, the cups were all of relatively equal size. Even though they were more ubiquitous than they were equitable, the cups were inclusive. Despite lacking wheels, that's how cups roll. Similar to other containers in their dinnerware family trees, cups are designed for inclusion. And they include things like liquids and oatmeal. Sometimes they include lunch, top ramen, matzo ball soup, or chili and beans, for example. As pleased as I was at the time to see wandering artists united by the presence of diverse and ubiquitous and inclusive cups, I still wonder why nobody seemed the least bit interested in throwing a Tupperware party. When the aimless element mysteriously decreased, it all made sense when Michael gave the group a unifying identity with the now familiar name, the Rootless Sippies. Under Michael's leadership, the group decided against carrying cups full of chili and beans because, as we all know, there is no known cure for the flatulence which erupts when pinto beans, kidney beans, navy beans, white beans, red beans, and yes, even lima beans are consumed. Today, it's easy for us to see that the sentence Michael completed has swung full circle. Like a whirling elementary school tetherball hurled around the thick, confusing fog of malodorous methane footprints, which leave in their wake an ill-conceived mixed metaphor and an extended analogy which will never be resolved, let us celebrate the completion of a job well done. Congratulations, Michael, and remember, as long as you don't reoffend, you will never have to endure the same kind of harrowing ordeal you can now look back upon and know you are a survivor. Okay, I have 45 seconds left. This is a personal note. Michael's contributed greatly to the community with poetry readings at Ducky Waddles. He organized and conducted a poetry reading at the Belliette, at the American Comedy Club, the La Paloma Poetry Slam, summer fun at the 101, music events at the library, and the Arts Alive Banner Project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Hey, Mike, I wanted to thank you for your service to this community, especially the arts part of the community. I've known you for a long time, ever since the ruckus at the Duck, and Jim got hold of me a couple days ago and said, that you were stepping down from the Arts Council, and why don't we kind of roast him. And I said, well, okay, now the only thing I've ever roasted is chicken and beef and things like that, but if it's okay with Mike, fine, you know, I'll bring the grill and all of that. But all that aside, I will never forget at doing, you doing your thing at the at Ducky Waddles, and one night I had brought a tutu and made Jim wear it, and I, while he was doing his thing wearing the pink tutu, there was you in the background, and you were casting covetous eyes on that tutu. I know you wanted it. You wanted it bad. But anyway, all joking aside, thank you for your service, Mike.
Thanks, Ed.
And what's next?
Thanks, time will tell. All right, do we have any other oral communications? Was that all of our speakers? Okay, I believe that was it. Thank you, Jim and Ed. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
Moving then to approval of the minutes. Is anyone who was present at the last meeting and been able to fully read and take in the last minutes
I would like
make a
to
motion?
move approval of the minutes from January 9th.
I will second. Oh, we're missing a vote here. And the motion passes with 4 members voting in favor and 1 abstention. Okay. Then moving on, Community Grant Program Evaluation Panel. We have an action item. The recommendation is to appoint an arts commissioner to serve on the Community Grant Evaluation Panel. And this is an excellent grant that funds many really cool arts events in our town and other things. So if I would like to start just by finding out if there's anyone on our commission who's interested in this position who hasn't held it before.
Well, I think it's down to Irene and I because we're the only 2 who will still be here.
Oh, man.
Is that correct, or will the 3 going off still be on the commission?
This will be my last term, so.
No, but I don't know if exactly what time, when you go off the commission. Is it before March 14th?
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yeah, I'm termed out tonight, so Navarro's done, and Jeff, you're not doing another term, so this is also your last night?
Yep, I know.
Okay, but we have Jim and Katie absent.
But can we appoint them without them here to say whether or not they have the time and that day?
We don't have the time, huh? Okay. Since it's upcoming.
I have something else, I believe on the March 14th. I'm not 100% certain, but 95% certain.
Well, I have done it in the past, so normally that wouldn't make me the best person to do it, but I do have the time and I'd be willing to do it. Actually really enjoy doing it. Finding out, it gives you a really terrific opportunity to find out what's going on in Encinitas.
Makes it an easy nomination for me to nominate Kathleen then. to serve on the community grant evaluation panel? Can I get a second?
I second.
Do we have to vote on this? I don't
Yes.
think we do.
Yes.
Well, if there's no one else interested, and Irene, you accept the nomination, then we don't need to vote.
Oh, okay.
It's Kathleen.
Oh, sorry, Kathleen.
Okay.
So moved. Okay. And so with Kathleen joining the community grant evaluation panel, that brings us to action item 8B, Commission for the Arts Annual Work Plan. And we are to discuss the fiscal year of 2022 to 2023 Commission work plan and provide updates on status or outcomes. And then if we have time, we will then discuss the potential work plan for the next year. So, yeah, we're going to begin on the yellow here. So, if there's anything new that any groups have met on or that needs to be added or anything that sounds different, then we're open for discussion amongst the Arts Commission here. Just chime right in, but we'll start right from the beginning with appointing up to 3 commissioners and appointing on the Friend EFA, and then 1 on cultural tourism, and then 1 for the community grant program. So we've just added Kathleen to that. We have Commissioner Hebert on cultural tourism, and then I will be leaving my Arts Commission position on EFA, so we would probably need to appoint somebody in my stead. And also Navardo. So we're gonna need 2 on that.
We'll be doing all of those appointments
Okay.
at the next meeting.
All right, so then as it's written up, all these people were appointed, and that's pretty straightforward. Anything to add? Okay, moving on then. Assisting Encinitas Friends of the Arts with fundraising activities and programming. So Commissioners Lees, Valenzuela, and Schmidt assisted with EFA's Passport to Persian Dance in April of 2022, and the annual Dia de los Muertos Festival in October 2022. They also participated in EFA's annual membership event program in December and the board retreat in January 2023. They were active voices in the process of advocating for Pacific View as a dedicated arts facility. All I would do there is add my name there for Schmidt, and then X out the "and" in the last sentence, and say they were active voices. Anything to add from EFA members? All right. I feel like since we have students here, we should probably maybe explain a little bit of what we're doing. So this is what we've worked on for the last year, and we're reporting to the city council, all of our elected representatives, as to how we performed on this. So the Encinitas Friends of the Arts is a nonprofit, and 3 of us served on that board, and we threw a bunch of fun events like the Dia de los Muertos and the Passport to Persian Dance. And so now we're moving down the line, and we're going to be continuing to finalize our report to the city council. All right, number 3, assisting city staff with Americans for the Arts and Economic Prosperity. Commissioners Corrales, Schmidt, Fox, Hebert, and Lees, and Valenzuela assisted the city staff in the survey process at city and other community events.
I have a question. How is that going to be flowing over into 23, 24, or is it? It does, doesn't it?
It does. The original deadline for that was April 30th, and we did just get an email that that's continuing through May 31st. So when the new commissioners join you at the March meeting, you will go through and make new ad hocs, and it'll be a new group. But again, all commissioners are invited and requested to continue participating in that endeavor.
Are we still gathering information, or is it just a matter of pulling it together at this point?
We are still very much gathering audience surveys through May 31st.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, so that said, that we've assisted in gathering surveys out at different events. So then moving on, presenting an updated draft arts master plan for the city council's consideration. So Commissioners Abraham, Redlitz, and Valenzuela developed an arts master plan draft for city staff to review. Commendable job on that. Anything to add? Okay. So moving on then, the arts master plan will help guide the arts department of the city. So number 5, support and advocate for the formation of a San Diego County Arts Council as part of the County of San Diego. So commissioners supported and advocated for the return of the County of San Diego Department of Arts and Culture, or of any other similar agency that would support the arts at a county level. Commissioner Valenzuela drafted a letter in support for the creation of an Office of Economic Development and Government Affairs, and the commission voted unanimously at the June 6 meeting to send it on to the Board of Supervisors, which we did. Okay. Then moving on to item number 6, assist with the promotion of city arts and cultural events, so things that the city puts on. Commissioners helped promote the city events by word of mouth and distribution of flyers in the community. That all sounds good to me. Oh, yeah, let's move it up, thanks. And number 7, researching the feasibility for a program of hosted artist homestays. So that was something we wanted to do potentially for more our classical concerts and maybe other future events to help traveling artists who come perform in our city have a place to stay and not have to pay the expense of a hotel. And Commissioner Redlitz shared the need for this program to support visiting artists. Preliminary research was conducted. Might we want to add something that we deemed it infeasible due to COVID-19? Or is that not desirable to state for the record?
I'm not sure it is. It's just,
Okay.
I think we're stating what we did.
Mhm.
And, as the public health condition changes, then the commission can look at that and, proceed if they choose to.
Great.
So you're suggesting that when we make our plans when we rewrite our next year's work plan, we address whether or not we see this as a viable effort to carry forward?
Yes, but hopefully between now and a year from now, public health conditions allow it to happen. So I guess for the commission, is there another wordsmithing that would allow you to get back to that task? Or as it stands, preliminary research was conducted. That seems to be an invitation to do more work
Yeah.
without any specific assignment.
Sure. Okay, then let's move on to public art. Quite a bit got done. So supporting the public art policy, we supported the policy during the Encinitas Boulevard undercrossing. So Commissioners Abraham and Redlitz served on the ad hoc to advise finalizing the mosaic prior to artist fabrication, and installation was completed in December 2022. I think there's work that we wanted to be done on that one still, potentially drafting a letter. Is that, will we address that later? About the Encinitas Boulevard undercrossing being obscured by the foliage? Is that something that we want to include
Yes,
on
something
there?
needs to be done. My understanding was it had to be a added specific agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe that'll be a continuing thing and not something we've gotten done yet. Okay. The sculpture program, an RFP was released in May 2022. And unfortunately, we didn't have enough qualifying entries by July, so a revised artist call is planned for release in February of 2023. With the El Portal undercrossing, the brand new one in Leucadia, Commissioners Corrales-Schmidt, Lees, and Redlitz served on the RFQ evaluation panel and presented their recommendation to the full commission, which voted on and unanimously approved recommendation to City Council at their September regular meeting. And the project kicked off in December 2022 with expected completion this coming fall in 2023. So we're really looking forward to that, those mosaics going up in Leucadia.
I would like to discuss whether or not we should add something, make it a little more specific there, because the project kicked off in December. And the kids at Pawlackie Central School are engaged in it. Should we say that that's the part of it that's actually functioning now, or is that not necessary?
That's not necessary. There's actually a lot of different parts that are kind of all happening at the same time. That's the part that kicked off, but.
But that's the fun part, that the kids are actually involved in it now. That makes it real. Okay.
So continuing then, donation of public art. Commissioners Fox, Lees, and Redlitz reviewed the application to donate a large sculpture for display at a city facility. They recommended the Public Works lobby, and the full commission voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council accept the donation. Installation is anticipated in February of 2023. Anything to add to that one? No? Okay. So that was our
Would it
public.
be inappropriate to get an update on how that stands at this point?
That can come up during.
Oh, no,
arts.
not on, we can do that now.
Okay.
We're still working on logistics. I don't have any new information about an actual deadline. I should by our next meeting.
Has the artist actually had a chance to see the art yet?
Yes.
That's in storage?
Yes.
Has it been moved?
Not yet, because we haven't had a chance to set up the logistics for making those plans. That's something we're going to be working on in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so if there's anything we should know about its condition, we would know that by now because he's seen the piece?
Right, there's nothing that nothing troubling we're aware of.
Oh, good, okay, that's good to know. That's enough to hear, thanks.
Okay, then number 9, investigate the feasibility of using the Outer Spatial app to identify public art locations. So this app development was ready for incorporating the city's public art collection in December of 2022. Commissioners discussed ways of using it to promote cultural tourism at their January 2023 meeting. Might we want to add the commissioners who worked on that? Navardo, you were one of them, right?
Yes, but I'm fine without my name on it.
No, let's put you in. Let's give credit where credit's due. So is Navardo and were any other commissioners involved with that?
Katie Fox was signed up, but
Yeah, throughout the year, I noted that when I went back through my notes, I noted that it was the full commission at one point or another had put their input on that particular project.
All right. Then moving on with visual art. And we have number 10 item, assisting with Art Night Encinitas, pre-event planning and at-event volunteering. Commissioners Corrales, Schmidt, and Valenzuela assisted staff in planning Art Night musical performances and other programming. And then Commissioners Corella Schmidt, Fox, Lees, Aver, and Valenzuela served as and/or recruited volunteers for Art Night greeters, shuttle hosts, and Americans for the Arts surveys takers. Do we miss any names on there? No, okay. And number 11, serve on the Visual Arts Selection Panel for 2023 arts exhibitions in the city's civic art spaces. So Commissioners Abraham, Corella Schmidt, and Lees served on the Visual Arts Selection Panel along with artists, curators, or other qualified members of the arts community to jury artist exhibition applications in October of 2022 and presented recommendations to city staff for the 2023 exhibitions. That sounds good to me. So then moving on to performing arts. Supporting the existing city performing arts programs and research feasibility of new offerings. So Commissioners Corella Schmidt, Abair, and Redlitz met several times and had numerous conversations about programming, arts education, programming that might be developed at the community center and then moved to Pacific View once that facility is operational, estimate for summer and fall of 2024. And then the commissioners also advised on proposals for summer concerts at Moonlight Beach, the Summer Classical Music Festival at the Encinitas Library, and the Music by the Sea Classical Music Series at the Encinitas Library. Can I give an update here? Yeah. So
Yes, please.
we do have a new summer classical series that staff is already developing that will go in the summertime, and we've decided on Tramonto, which is Italian for sunset. We've selected that as the most highly selected and popular name for it. We thought that was appropriate since the concerts will take place in the community room at the library, and that's happening right when the sun goes down in the summer, and it's a lovely place and time to see a classical show.
Do we know who the performers are?
We are currently working on an agreement with Jacopo Giacopuzzi, who has put together a stellar slate of musicians, and I should be able to share more information about that at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Michael, could you say the name of it again?
Tramonto,
Tramonto. What does that mean?
Italian for sunset.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
And we also discussed maybe incorporating a bit more of kind of an artist talk as part of the programming, which is something that we haven't had at our classical concerts in the past. And then moving on then to number 13, arts education, support existing city arts educational programs and direct potential arts instructors to city RFPs for arts program instruction. So Commissioners Abraham, Fox, and Corella Schmidt reviewed ideas for future arts education program planning at Pacific View, and we presented them to city staff for review. So we do have some other future ideas that we will bring up as part of the future work plan. But as far as this was concerned, I think just, I'll just save my comment for when we get to future work plan. Any changes needed there? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, jumping back to number 12, I just wanted to point, it says programming, arts education programming. I think maybe strike the first programming.
Strike the second one, because
Oh, okay.
programming is the action we're taking right now. Programs for the second one.
Okay, yeah. So then, moving on to 14 and 15, which will be to present the commission work plan outcomes to city council in one of the April meetings. So that will be done by staff, or is that does that have involvement from our commission?
So tonight, you all will vote whether this is the list of outcomes to present, and then staff prepares the report that then goes to council.
Okay, and does that become any kind of an informational item that that any speaking is involved with at their meeting, or is it part of the consent?
It's usually done on consent.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the only other thing is to present next year's work plan, which we will need to discuss first. Can we
So-
take action on approving this?
Correct. So first, if this is acceptable, then you would vote to accept this. This is the outcomes that you would like presented to council.
I would move then that we accept this as our work plan outcomes for 2022, 2023.
I second.
Oh. And the motion passes with all 5 commission members voting yay.
So before you move on to a brief session of discussing potential new ones, we have Art Night coming up on March 4th, which will be before your next commission meeting. And while there has been great assistance from the ad hoc in getting ready for that, I would very much like for the full commission to consider volunteering and helping out. It really makes for such a much richer experience the more assistance we have.
Thank you.
I volunteer. Let me know what you need me to do.
Thank you.
I will be in person that night volunteering.
Thank you, thank you. And Michael, you're always welcome to come back after your term expires to volunteer.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So with that said, shall we move to next year's art plan? It seems like we're moving along at a decent clip here, so.
We can put together, you can spend some time brainstorming. Just keep in mind, no final decisions will be made tonight. This is just part of gathering ideas. And once the new commissioners are seated at the March meeting, they will have the opportunity for review and input as well.
Okay. I'm going to just propose that we go through this in a way where anyone who wants to say something about an item says something and not item by item. So I'll open the floor to anybody else first.
Well, okay, going on, I had a few suggestions, but I
You want, I can start with the suggestions that we came up with for the education. Okay, so myself, Irene, and Katie all met discussing arts education. And hold on, I need to pull up my notes on that.
And I might be able to assist a little bit because I did receive that, and
Okay.
I'm just going to share some information. I'll go through those, and then you might have some clarifying questions, and then reframe some of the ideas.
Well, I just wanted to add one thing that we didn't make explicit in what we shared with you, was that we felt that perhaps finding artists for to fill I don't know, RFP or RFQs for arts educational programming might be just something that we can list all members on and be a standing thing, because we didn't feel that meeting as a group necessarily helped our search, and that it's more of something that we would reach out to our own networks of friends for, if we do know of different people who could bring interesting arts programming to the fore.
And we can definitely do that. The ad hoc was for those times when you needed to meet as a small group. I think it was last year, and certainly in years prior when I was on the commission, that was something that was invited for the full commission to actively participate in that process.
Yeah, so we would like to open that to everybody.
And so we could break the way that's done. So within some of the other ones where we've had art night, for instance, there's an ad hoc that meets for planning and coordination, but the full commission can come and volunteer.
Okay. And then just add, the other thing I wanted to add was that we know some of these might not fall under Arts Commission best, some of the ideas, and Colette, you can proceed with what you wanted to say.
Sure. So one of the goals that had been presented was to explore and define possible uses of Pacific View as a small performing arts space. And unfortunately, the occupancy limits for each of the rooms really does not allow for that. The maximum number of human beings that can be in a room at any one time tops out at 18, as per the current zoning, permitted, all the things. They were classrooms, and especially when we take things like dance or moving around, the heat generated that can lower the occupancy for a room. So the thought here is that these really are where the education or those kinds of things happen, and then if there is a performance or a recital, then those can go to a larger city facility such as the community room at the library or the banquet room at the community center. So I just wanted to...
I have a question. I thought 2 of the rooms can be put together.
They can. So
That would
one room
increase
has a wall that can be, but then the maximum number of people that could actually sit down and watch it would be 18 or 17 potentially.
So it's the same in 1 room as in 2 rooms, the occupancy.
For the room where the wall can come down, it would be approximately twice. So 36.
36.
Correct. But you have to count the performers in that count. So if
Well, if you have 1 performer, then that's, maybe you could have 35 people.
potentially, I'm trying to give clarification and
Right,
kind of reframe expectations and what the capacity and permitted uses for that facility are.
Right, and I think we realized that there was not a potential for large audiences,
Yes.
but in some circumstances, small audiences would work perfectly well.
They may, just in terms of a full work plan agenda item and researching, as I read this, it didn't seem like that was going to be applicable on a very widespread basis, based on the room occupancy limitations.
I think it's important for the public to be aware of the limitations, and I would like the Arts Commission to research it with city staff fully understand before it's even built what the limits are, what can be done there, what can't be done there, and deliver a report to the city council so that can, you know, that can temper expectations within the public, because I think that, you know, we're kind of all just finding this stuff out, and, you know, the public doesn't know, but they should.
A lot of this has been presented in reports to council from the architect, and it's one of the pages in a multi-page document, and potentially difficult to really extract that information easily. But this research and what has been allowed and zoned and permitted, all of that research, all of that work has already been done outside of the Cultural Arts Division. That's, as I've shared before, that part's not even within our division right now. And the building is under renovations now based on that plan which council accepted. So I can pull that info out and make it easier to see, because like I do acknowledge it's like page upon page, and it's got all different kinds of information. So I'm happy to pull that out and make it clearer and put that into a presentation. But some parts of this were just so limited, first of all by zoning, then by use, and then it came down to actually the room size and how many human beings can safely occupy a space according to the rules.
We appreciate that. I think, I mean, I appreciate that, but at the same time, like, you know, I ran a poetry night that had less than 30 people most of the times I ran it for years, and like 2 of those people came out here to wish me congrats on being on the Arts Commission for 6 years, because the small events can be extremely impactful, and I want to see full reporting and full, like, the folks who are going to bring programming to our space there that are excited to do that, I think should have an exact knowledge of like what is possible, what's not. And I think we can define that a little bit more. And of course, things might change once the construction is underway. But I think it's important. I think we can deliver a good report to council on this that will probably strike them as new information, even if it's not necessary, even if it's just repackaged. And I also, we mentioned special events in here because, you know, once that thing's done, people are gonna wanna do special events. They have the right to apply. The city might wanna do special events, and I think it's part of the kind of planning that this Commission for the Arts could be informing and kind of helping the public understand what's possible to be done there, and maybe advising what belongs there and what would maybe be not a great special events use.
Right, and there again, it goes back to zoning and what size and where. Is it indoor, is it outdoor? And all of that information exists as it relates to the research that the city planning development services, what the architect, what has already happened. And I don't want the commission to be frustrated by going and doing additional work to find out that council comes back and tells you that that's already happened. That these things have already been researched as to what is possible. And then when, I think it was our meeting that we had last September when we were at the library, when we were going through some of the brainstorming, and that was all based on those baseline limitations that we were aware of. So for instance, we can't have concerts out in the parking lot. We can't have, because that triggers major use. We can only have so many. I'm looking at Julie because she does all the permits. Minor use is extremely limited. So the use of the space really is arts education And that doesn't mean, like you're saying, if there's one person who will use the poetry as an example, if it's one poet presenting and then you can have say 35 people in an audience, you can potentially do that. However, at the time that event is thought of, it might be better to look at doing something like that at the library where more people can come and enjoy the presenter. So it's not that it can't, we just already know what the limitations and capacities are. So as it gets closer and programming is conceived, then it's going to be looking at which facility makes the most sense so that the most people can enjoy whatever's being presented.
Oh, go ahead, Kathleen.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess from the point of view of our ad hoc, even given these limitations, it still would be useful for us to get together every once in a while and discuss and possibly come up with a summary of what is and isn't allowed for the commission members so they are aware and, any possible changes in the future.
Sure, and I can
So
absolutely.
I don't see the harm in having an ad hoc devoted to this, if there are people on the commission willing to do this.
I'm still not really seeing how it's different from what's already, unfortunately, it's not subjective. It's, these are related to zoning and room capacity and.
Right, I understand that, but this could be, I think many members of the commission are concerned about not only what's going to happen next year, but what might happen in the future for Pacific View. And this, could be a way of the ad hoc considering those issues as well. But I think, I really don't see why, having some codified summary would be a bad idea.
Right, but that information would be coming from the city
Right.
to you. So that would be information sharing and not really a work plan item.
We'd be doing the work of compiling public interest information that is difficult to obtain directly from the city, basically, for folks who might not be as, able to navigate how they get information.
Sure, so if I'm hearing you, there is the non-subjective, here's what it's zoned for, here's how many people it can hold. And then there is public interest in what kind of programming might be held there, and there will be public input. However, not for at least some lengthy period of time. The building is still under renovation and not scheduled to be completed until summerish 2024. So we're getting a little ahead of things. I'm not sure that's appropriate for this coming terms. We do have the existing work plan item where we're looking for programming to start to develop at one of the other city sites that would be appropriate to move over to Pacific View. And so some of what you're talking about necessarily then falls within that, because you have to know what capacity and use is allowed in order to know if it's something that can be developed and then moved over to Pacific View. So that feels like, if I'm understanding you correctly, that's part of what you already have within an existing work plan item for this year that you could look at moving over into next year.
Which item are you thinking of there?
Under arts education, the commissioners promote the RFP and start to look for arts educators. We are definitely looking at developing those programs that can move over to Pacific View. So it's that same one,
Or
and I
maybe
think
that
it's
could
going,
be- yeah, go ahead.
pardon?
Oh, I'm just wondering if that can be altered Right now, it
That's what I
doesn't
was about,
include-
that's what I was in the middle of saying,
Okay, fine.
that you could amend that and add that, because that's still very much connected, pardon me, to arts education programming, and you would need to know those things about what is allowed, both from a permitting and a capacity perspective at Pacific View.
It appears to me that being the Arts Commission and being as supportive of Pacific View as everybody who's ever been on this commission has been, that we have an interest in Pacific View and what happens there. And it is in a state of being constructed in flux, and what is being planned for it is changing, probably by the month or the week. And how about if we just have a ad hoc committee that just remains available to give input and share information and be a conduit for bringing in programs or ideas or whatever, and have it just be a flexible operation group, because we don't know what we're going to be dealing with exactly in 6 months. And it sounds like it was going to have to be a part of our constant discussion, and when we have conversations with people about who are saying, oh, you're having this wonderful art thing, we want to be part of it, is that there are limitations on how it can be used. And just constantly make people aware of that from the very beginning, so that they don't have grandiose ideas about putting on concerts in the parking lot and things like that, because I think we've pretty much discovered that's not going to happen, at least not for the next 10 years or so. But that's what I'm thinking of it being. I don't know, it would be separate from this or part of this, but to definitely have an ad hoc committee, but have them be more flexible and open, and so that there is a small group of people who will attend the meetings, who will attend the planning commission meetings and the city council meetings and the cultural tourism committee meetings, and the possibly Lake Leucadia 101 Main Street meetings, board meetings, to find out what's going on in the various communities with regards to Pacific View. So that would have to be 2 or 3 people who are really committed to Pacific View.
So Pacific View, the timeline of it is between now and, I'm going to keep calling it summer 2024 until we know differently, is in the renovation stage and is in the city manager's office. This work plan period that you're looking at runs from March through February 2024. So the committee that you're talking about would make a lot more sense in the following year's work plan. In the occasion where there are those things that come up, for example, the color palette focus group that came up, that was brought as an agendized item and a commissioner was appointed to it. There may still be a handful of things like that between now and then, but the advice we have from the staff side is that there's not enough within the cultural arts division to have this be a regular work plan item outside of the arts education programming, starting to look at what could be developed so that we have some things that are ready to go when it begins.
So in other words, the city is not looking for input from the Arts Commission at this point.
It's not in the cultural arts division, which is where we are right now. So the items where input was requested, and like when ideas for programming, categories for programming within that has happened already. The focus group is still going on for the color palette, and Commissioner Fox is in that focus group. So as right now they're doing the renovations, that were discussed and voted on within the city council meeting. So I'm trying to clarify where we are in the timeline. It's not that they're not interested, it's that the parts that could be done happened, and the commission did have input on that. Based on that, they are making changes to rooms. For example, the room where the divider can pull away and make it one big room, that's a performing arts room. That was based on input from the commission. So until they get to the next stage, there isn't really anything else to do. Does that help clarify it? It's not that they're not
It does.
interested.
What it does is it clarifies the city's position on it. And I have worked on a lot of projects, and I can tell you from the very beginning, you're better off to have the arts involved from the very beginning, at the beginning of the planning. And it's something that most businesses and organizations have no clue what they're missing out on by not doing that. So it's just a different approach, I think. It's obviously not going to be through the Arts Commission.
So all of that initial planning, the commission was part of that.
No, because we weren't. We got a program, we got a report, and that's what we got to respond to.
That's all the more, I'm not sure if you think I got more input than that.
No, I'm not saying you
There
I'm
is,
not saying
Well,
you.
we had
There-
a
there is-
brainstorming session on,
Yes.
on uses that were allowable.
Okay, so
Right, so we have to
my
go-
brainstorm is
And
to have,
That was our input.
that's our input, is to have a subcommittee that stays open and flexible and available to be of service and information and provide input to the city as they move forward doing all their planning.
Kathleen, if I may, so the things that we've come up with for the work plan have specific outcomes, goals and outcomes. And a lot of this will touch on having different having either we're going to talk about having a standing item for Pacific View later on the agenda, and then also we have different work plan goals here that we haven't got through all of them yet, but just the first one, wanting to, we're still trying to talk about the first one. We haven't really come to kind of an agreement as to whether or not we can have this on the work plan or not. And I think I understand that all of the information is there, but I don't think it's easy to find for anyone that would potentially want to teach at Pacific View. And I know it's early, but that's something that we want to help on. So perhaps, words might need to be changed or the focus of it a little bit. But I think getting information to the public and have I can talk to anybody I want to about how there's going to be this great performing arts center, but until there's maybe a well-organized list of this is probably going to happen here at the city, we can't really be pitching that to somebody who's an arts instructor. And I just think that there's a way that the information could be streamlined and organized that would be helpful, and it could be a pretty good outcome for the city overall. But perhaps it's one we can come back to. I don't see agreement on it yet.
and also it sounds to me like it's information that you're not feeling like you've seen or that exists. And I am aware of some of this information, a lot of this information's existence. So I can pull it together out of the different reports that have come primarily through city council meetings, and then also our programmatic meeting, I believe it was September 2022, where it was, these buckets, these categories of programming, and look at the rooms with the capacities and take all of that into one place rather than having to look at it in a lot of different places. But that seems like I know where all those parts are and I can pull those together. That feels more like a staff item rather than having you hunt it down.
Well, I won't be here to work on it anyway. So I'm going to propose that we have a lot more to talk about, and perhaps we should table this one for the moment unless anyone would like to add something.
Real briefly, I think a year from now, the goal should be to create a user manual. It has all the data that Colette is talking about. It's not a big building, and that's a package the architect and staff could do pretty quickly, which is graphic, and, you know, it'd have room, capacity, available electrical, sound, lighting, if there's anything unique, because all of that will come out in a level of detail about this time next year, and all of that is important to whoever wants to use the facility. So, you know, it'll have all that detail of, does it have movable lighting? Does it have expandable acoustical, you know, electrical services? You know, is there a shade device on the window and all of that? So maybe that level of detail really does describe the activity, and anyone that wants to teach, present, perform will want to know that level of detail. We don't know it now.
Right. I don't
Year
think
from now.
the city even necessarily has that on the rooms that are currently in use, like readily available in like a really user-friendly way yet. So potentially we could start with an ad hoc reviewing what staff comes together with about what the library offers to people who want to have a performance or a class there, you know? And right, then further out, like Jeff said, it could expand to Pacific View when we have a better idea. I don't feel like the information is readily available and user-friendly.
The library does have that information readily available. The Pacific View, because it is a project in process, that is not comprehensively available in one place, but each of these things that you've talked about have been discussed. There are documents that have that information that can be condensed into a single summary to make it easier. And that way you can know what those things are. Because those, again, through primarily at city council meetings, that information has been produced, and then at some of our Arts Commission meetings as well.
And the architectural plans are completed, aren't they? So all this information should be available, so.
Correct, and that's why I'm saying it's a multi-page document. I'm not even going to guess how many pages, but so I can understand why it might have been difficult to find which page has the room capacities, because one of them has where all the electrical is and where this part of the something's going to be done. So it's very detailed, each page. So I can pull that out and be able to show that to you and make the capacity issue easy. I know I re-forwarded the programming categories to all of you, just as a reminder at your request recently. I can pull that together. We can get it so that it's all in one place to be able to look at what those are. It is zoned as a public arts or public education facility, so arts education fits within that use. And so then it comes down to what kind of uses make sense. When we start to get into really specifics, at some point there is going to be a community survey. What kind of specific programming is the community interested in that falls within those allowable uses and capacity restraints? We're just not there yet. It's too early because of how far away the building is. So that's going to come back to the commission when it's time, but not likely within the calendar of the next work plan. It's more likely to be the one after that.
Just as a point of information, how difficult is it to change zoning?
To
because-
change zoning?
Oh, Lord.
Very difficult.
Very difficult. I mean, and time
It's
consuming
something
and,
that goes through the city council, I realize, but it does.
Potentially.
But it's not
Okay.
impossible,
it is an involved process.
yes.
I think I would like to table discussion of this, this new suggested item at this time unless anyone has any more comments on it. Okay.
I guess my comment is, so, maybe just, the members of the commission can just suggest changes in some of these, just send you an email as to what changes in the wording that might be
Sure,
useful.
absolutely.
Because I think, for example, on the arts education, I think our ad hoc had some ideas about how to change that wording and still make it.
And won't we be discussing it next week with our new members? Or, I'm sorry, next month with our new members?
Correct. We'll have the new commission members on and be able to have them have input and further discuss. And hopefully you are able to come to agreement. If not, you will still have the April meeting to make final decisions. Anything new, you can't really work on until council has accepted your work plan. Items that have been on that you roll over, you can generally just keep working on, but any new items, you'd have to wait for those to be.
Plus, we have to wait until we have new people on. So, I mean, some of these
Yeah.
ad hoc committees, all three people are going off,
Sure.
are going off, so.
Right, so just in terms of some of these things, the artist in residency, that's definitely an idea that was discussed in the concepts and ideas for programming and things that could happen at Pacific View. Again, a year from now is a time to start talking about that kind of conversation.
Really, in my experience, the earlier you start planning things, the better off you are. And especially for the idea of the artist residency, that's something takes a lot of planning and.
It does, and in general, I would agree with you, Irene. However, when Pacific View opens, it's going to be initially a soft opening with programming incrementally increasing as the building is established. When the building is complete, it's going to be a shell of a building. We then need to get furniture, fixtures, equipment, a lot of which has not been budgeted for yet. So fundraising, getting grants, donations, and so forth in order to fill some of those spaces, we're not sure when that's going to happen. So that is where I say we're really that really is a conversation for probably a year from now.
But if you want to get a grant, for example, for an art residency, it would seem to me you'd want to have started yesterday on that for 3 years from now. Because
Well,
that's such a long.
I understand. As staff does not have the capacity to do any grant writing at this time, and the commission has not yet voiced an interest in grant research and/or writing, it's not a viable option at this moment, which is why I continue to say a year from now.
Excuse me, but that brings up another question I had that I wasn't going to ask because it seemed like it wasn't the right time, but now you're talking about it. So I have worked on grants, getting grants for nonprofit organizations, but how is it different for the city to apply for a grant? Do they just apply to different grants? Some are available to nonprofits and some are available to governments, or how
So,
does that
so
work?
just informationally, and then we need to, you just have to look at who's applicable, what the eligibility is.
So some grants the city wouldn't be eligible for?
Correct.
Or a nonprofit would not be eligible for?
Correct.
You just have to keep
You have to, and
for
that's part of where the value of having an ad hoc or, the full commission be interested in doing that research and finding those opportunities, because it really is, it's a lot of spelunking through grant databases and grant opportunities and finding ones that are, which is why I shared that would be a very welcomed work plan item for this next year that starts in March.
Okay. I'd like us to move on, but I would like to at least, since this wasn't attached as part of the agenda, to have all of the suggested items read.
That's okay. It's part of your
Yeah.
brainstorming, which is part of our agenda.
Right, so we'll move, the next one was long-term planning for Pacific View. So, did you want to give input first, or that's fine?
Right. So that one also, I think you're going to have a difficult time with that at this point, because we're still, that
Can we, because this isn't on the agenda, so.
your
most of the
brainstorming
people-
is on the agenda.
But the exact wording that we put, I didn't see it.
Just this is part of your brainstorming for ideas to
No,
go.
I know, but what we sent, so all the other members who are not on our ad hoc don't know what we're talking about, I don't think.
In other words, can we submit that for the minutes?
It's not, you're having a discussion right now based on ideas. So there were some that were emailed in, and
Right.
we're reading them. And so this is part of the agendized discussion, brainstorming of potential new ideas.
Well, I'm wondering if
so-
that submission from, our ad hoc could be added to the minutes.
It's not actually part of the minutes. The discussion is part of, is on the agenda, and the agenda will reflect that it was discussed.
But that's just usually very, quite a short summary of what actually transpired,
That
even
is
without subjects.
the city format for how that happens. So
My point of order, Colette, was that you started with, this one will be hard, but like, I feel like not everyone understands.
Oh, I read it aloud. I mean, I can
Okay,
read the
but-
next one aloud. Long-term planning was what you said.
But what we said, the goal, the
Right.
goal and the outcome.
Yeah,
If you could read the goal and outcome,
Happy to.
thank you.
Was to task an ad hoc group with formulating a proposal to create a citywide committee dedicated to long-term planning, which is actually an operational item, I was made aware, and continued vision development for Pacific View. So the item that, when it's time, where that long-term goal would be gathering community input via a survey and public comment at meetings, we're just not there yet. And I know how exciting Pacific View is, but there's an order of operations and the things that need to happen and the order in which they go. So this long-term planning, again, we're just early. This one's early. There's other things that need to happen before this one. So I think you're going to be frustrated. Same with artist in residency for Pacific View. The goal was define and research a multidisciplinary artist in residency program. That is something that has been expressed as an interest and as a program, but we're probably about a year ahead on that one as well. Again, no funding for it at this time. So until there is funding, which may not be for some time, that's probably not going to be within phase one, as there is the initial programming at the site, and then that is gradually built up based on what kind of equipment and availability we have for programs.
How about if for next year's, or, 23, 24
Sure.
work plan, we have an ad hoc committee that investigates the possibility of a future? And then there would be some groundwork for it once it did go into a position where it could get funded.
So we just have to keep track of what's the difference between operational and input. So the concept of an artist in residency has already been discussed and accepted as a viable possibility. So now it's moving forward into like when that can happen. And one of the biggest things is going to be funding for it. So it's not really researching viability because it's already on an acceptable list based on the brainstorming and the input and use and so forth. Next is going to come, when does it fit within it can operationally be executed? And that's going to have to do with capacity and funding, all of which are operational items, not so much a desire to do it, but can we afford it? How does it function? How does staff address it? And things like that.
Okay. So then, I guess the ones we haven't addressed would be investigating an additional avenues of communication between the city and residents regarding cultural art programs. So I think that was kind of just having the Arts Commission review sort of all of the different PR that Cultural Arts puts out, and maybe make recommendations or see ways that we might be able to potentially, I think social media was one area we discussed. I know it's difficult for the city to do better in, but something that an ad hoc could take a look at and give recommendations for.
So you currently have under work plan item number 6, you have something that's related to this, which is assist with the promotion of city arts and culture events. And it had a specific goal, which was to assist with the submission of programs and events to public calendars as well as traditional social media channels. So it's very similar to what's been proposed, and that absolutely could happen. There was no action taken on that in this year's other than word of mouth. So if that continued over, I would just want to make sure the commission had the capacity to reach the outcome that is desired.
Okay, and then the next goal.
Excuse me, Michael.
Okay, sure, yeah, jump in. Sorry.
Back to the idea about the long-term planning ad hoc. It wasn't that the ad hoc would come up with a long-term plan. It was that the ad hoc would investigate, suggesting to the city council that they form a multi-commission task force, for example, to look at the future planning. So I just wanted to make that clear.
So
Right.
that sounds more like a recommendation that as a council you would vote on, whether you wanted to make a recommendation to council. That's not really an ad hoc. And that is something you all can decide to do and put forth a recommendation to council about something. But that's more of a,
We would need an ad hoc to work on a report for that, though, and that's why we were putting it on the work plan. Because we would need people to work together and then submit some sort of report about, we think this task force for the long-term planning of Pacific View needs to be formed. Here's what we've come up with, and then basically the commission could vote whether or not they approve of the report and want to forward it to city council or not.
well, you can certainly put things on there. I'm just trying to advise you on based on the information I have, what is operational, what is not, where your time and expertise can be of most benefit to the staff and to the city. And you can take that advice or not.
Okay, then the last goal was develop a mission and vision statement for Pacific View Arts Center.
I chatted with other city staff about this, and we are looking at having this be part of our 23-24 work plan within the city and working on having this be developed. And I am happy that you gave this as a consideration because it is a city property. It would need to definitely be done through city staff. I don't know that this would be a work plan item, but it was a fantastic idea that had already been in development in terms of determining kind of that information. I've heard it talked about in terms of the fundraising, what are we raising money for? We're going to have instructors, where's the information that they need about the facility? So it is a document or a statement that is very much needed, but in the chronology, the timeline is part of the city, the 23-24 plan.
And could the commission have any input into what the staff comes up with?
I will inquire.
Thank you.
Right. So then, I believe that's all of the goals we suggested. So moving back to next year's work plan goals, were there any other changes or updates that anyone wanted to provide?
I had another couple
Okay,
of things actually for next year's.
Go ahead, yeah. We're just doing it round robin,
And I
so.
don't remember if that was in the note that you got, Colette, or not. But one was just having an ad hoc come up with a online reference handbook for new members of the Arts Commission. So this would be something, and since we're going to have a very large turnover, I think it would be really useful for people coming in.
So there is a commission handbook, and we are going to be doing in small groups so that it is in compliance with the Brown Act, reviewing the specifics to the Art Commission in having the new commission members get a little bit more specific information about how the commission operates and its role within the structure of things, and existing commissioners will be incorporated in those sessions as well. I expect those are probably going to happen, hopefully happen before the next commission meeting. And I'll be sending you information once I have more specifics.
So are you thinking, I know we all were given a handbook but it's
Unwieldy.
pretty, it's a little hard to get the information out that you really need to actually, the way this commission works, and it's more directed, it seems, to actually the city council. So this sounds like a great idea. So I hope we can come up with something that's in a digestible format.
I hope so too.
That wasn't something I wanted to mention too. I was wondering if there wasn't some kind of a briefing, because I sat here for the first 6 months with like a deer in the headlights trying to figure out what was going on, because there's so many ongoing projects, and exactly what is your role in doing anything. And at their very first meeting, we're going to be asking them to vote on ad hoc committees and writing our work plan for next year. So I think without a briefing, that's really a lot to expect, even from the brilliant people who have applied for the position.
Sure. And any clarification would be something, if you're still needing it, to request from staff rather than have that be a commission ad hoc group that would form that information.
And one thing I'd like to request too is that Jessica Roberts attend our March meeting, because I understand she's going to be working on programming, and it seems like her input would be helpful. And also, I think it would be important for the new people coming on to meet her, and also to meet, I don't know, 7 foot tall, forgot his name.
Connor.
I'm sorry, it's my old lady brain.
That's all right.
Honor.
Definitely had already had plans, because we will have new commissioners, so that they can see all of the faces.
Yeah,
So
I think it would be really nice and friendly to introduce them to the staff that they'll be working with, so that they will know they're available.
No, I appreciate that we're of the same mind on that topic.
And another idea I had was to, because there are only going to be 4 existing commissioners, and 2 of them haven't been on for 2 years yet. Haven't completed 2 years. So I was wondering if we could assign each of the new people coming on somebody who's been on the commission for a while, just to do text with and answer questions, or to ask any questions, or maybe help fill them in.
Ideally, I'm their point of inquiry, and hopefully after, pardon me, these small group sessions, those questions will be addressed. And if there's still information, then, just to avoid any kind of daisy chaining, any kind of Brown Act violations, if information comes
Or
into me.
misinformation, I mean.
Right, if it comes
Okay,
through
you're right.
me,
You would
to
be the
me,
best
and then
person.
back out, then it is within compliance, and that's a really important thing to consider.
I'm really happy to know that that's being covered. Thank you.
Okay. Were there any other work plan updates or discussions about new items for the next year? Keep in mind, we don't have all of our members, and this will probably continue being an ongoing discussion. No, if not, I just wanted to throw in quickly that the ad hoc for the art nights met with myself, Navardo, and Jess Roberts, our new staff member, and we have a really cool lineup planned for March 4th art night with lots of live art, and there's going to be an ekphractic art, poetry writing workshop going on throughout the library. So we're pretty excited about all of the cool programming we've come up with, and there's going to hopefully be some films at future ones this year. So a lot of good stuff in the pipeline there. Okay, let's see. I would like to move beyond the work plan, if that's all right with everyone.
Sure.
Okay. So then, moving on then to informational items, we have 9A, the Cultural Arts Division Report.
All right, one of the items you had asked for information on was the streetlight banners. And the update that I have is that those are managed by the admin division. Information has been shared with the stakeholders, including the 101 organizations and the chamber. A use policy is currently being developed and can be presented to the commission when completed if you'd like. Pacific View, the color palette focus group.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask.
It's only information.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm sorry. Color palette focus group met on February 1st. Community input will still be gathered at a future time at an Arts Commission meeting. I don't have the date for that just yet. And the full commission will at some point be able to make the recommendation to council. Renovations, as I mentioned earlier, are expected to be completed by summer 2024. And after that, staff is still going to need to add the furniture, fixtures, equipment. We're really going to be delivered a building, working through things like security, building, parking, logistics. Programming is expected to be available late summer, early fall, and it will be a soft opening at first, gradual expansion of programs so that we can do a good job with what is being offered and not try to do too much without having all of those things developed. The Arts and Economic Prosperity Survey deadline has been extended to May 31st. Again, can't stress enough how much your assistance working with community organizations to get additional surveys done would be greatly appreciated. Reaching out to the community arts organizations, finding out what other events they have, encouraging them to participate in the survey process. The results are only going to benefit them. We can make it as convenient as possible. I can deliver volunteers. We deliver all the surveys, all the pens, all the everything. We just need the arts organizations to allow us to be there. The Moonlight Beach concert tentative lineup has been determined July 9th is the Red Cars Band. It's Chris Cote's Cars Tribute Band. July 23rd, Len Rainey and the Midnight Players, Little Blues. August 6th is Brawley with Nina Anderson, it's a little Americana. And on August 20th, the Silent Comedy, which is rock. Michael mentioned the Tramonto Music Festival. The dates for that are July 31st through August 5th. There's going to be an Meet the Artists event on August 1st with 3 concerts that Thursday through Saturday night, which is August 3rd through 5th. We're still working on developing the pricing structure and all of that, and hope to have that out in the next month or so. And the art night dates, we mentioned the one coming up on March 4th. The other 3 for this year are on June 3rd, September 9th, and November 18th. So if you're not available to help and volunteer with this one, there are 3 more this year to jump in on. And they really are a lot of fun. They're very rewarding. The ad hoc has put a great deal of thought and consideration into developing these into much more involved and meaningful events for the community. So the commission's participation in volunteering to help execute that would be incredibly welcomed. And that is the conclusion of the Arts Division report for tonight.
All right, thank you. And you covered most of all the commission calendars, so we'll move to 9C, the EFA report.
So EFA is still in a transitional moment. So, this year the organization is taking a step back and, reprioritizing its goals and vision for going forward.
Okay, so then let's see, we have number 10, the Pacific View Art Center standing agenda item. So this was initiated by Katie, and she is not able to be here tonight. She was not feeling well. But I think something she asked me to stress was that, I guess with all the different things that we're trying to get done on on these new items that we're putting forward as potential new items on the work plan and ideas for Pacific View, that she thinks it, and I agree that it would be of a huge benefit to have a standing item on Pacific View. And if there is nothing to report, I mean, this is me speaking now, if there is nothing to report, then that can be stated. And I think that to have it every month is maybe could almost be incentive for there to be small things to report. I think we've had robust discussion tonight, and there were a few things that came out of it that I didn't know. My head's kind of spinning right now, so I can't exactly tell you exactly what that was. But when we do have discussions on it, a lot comes out of it, and I think it would also offer. I mean, it would probably be a staff item, but it could be something that a commission member could look into a burning question on and report on and get with staff, so that could be information for the Arts Commission. So
just a point of clarification, items under 10 are items done solely by commissioners.
mm-hmm.
If the commission wanted to request something of staff, if 2 or more agreed, then that can be something presented under discussion, item number 11 on the agenda.
Okay. I'm just checking things out. The agenda.
Do we need to how would we put this, have a vote on this, whether we wanted this?
So it would be something that could happen under item 11. If you had an item, if 2 or more commissioners wanted to have a future agenda item, you can have that under number 11.
Are we
So-
allowed to request a standing item as is proposed here? Okay,
But under item number 11.
So this would have to go to next month? Or,
So this is a commissioner, so under items in number 10, those are things that the commissioners do completely on their own. Under 11, you can request something, so you can request those additional agenda items, and if you would like it to be standing, you can request that. And so if you ask for that, if there are 2 or more who would like to have that, it could be effective on the next agenda in March.
okay, well, I would like to request that.
We're not at 11 just yet.
oh, sorry, we're not. I'm confused then. Hang on.
You're currently on 10.
Hang on, I got a
So
lot
if
of
you
tabs
finished all
open.
of your discussion on 10, then you could move on to 11.
All right. So folks, is there any more discussion to be had on this? Do people think it's a good idea? No? No more discussion? Do people think this is a good idea who haven't?
Aren't we on 11?
I'm sorry. I was opening the discussion for 10 still. If nobody else wants to discuss, we can move to 11, okay?
Well, apparently we have to take 10 and do 11 to it.
Well, we need a motion.
You need 2 or
two-
more
two members
commissioners.
to step forward, and I think people who will remain on the commission should do this.
Okay, I move then that we have a future agenda item to discuss, adding a report on Pacific View from staff at our monthly commission meetings.
I would agree with that. Kathleen, do you agree with that?
I would like to have the rest of the new appointees on the commission to vote on that. It seems like they should be able to.
All we need
We
is,
will vote
all we
on
need is 2, and it's a standing item.
But then what if if we find a way of getting it on the work plan, then we'd
Well, I
have
mean,
two
That's a completely
groups
separate thing.
working on the same thing.
I
This-
believe one would be a staff report and the ad hoc would be the commission.
Yeah,
Okay, well, then I would vote yes for a staff report.
okay.
Do we need to push our vote button?
No.
Does somebody make,
We have
don't need to
agreement
make
that
a
we would like
motion
a
and
standing,
stuff?
we have agreement from a consensus from 2 people that we would like this to be a future standing agenda on Pacific View. And if there's nothing to report, it can be reported as such. Then moving forward to number 12, commissioners' reports. Let's start from that end, if anybody has one. Jeff?
I wish for the commission in the future to have great success with a arts master plan. Your involvement in Pacific View in a very broad basis, and a year from now, a very specific basis of utilizing the building. And I want to thank you all for your collaboration on the different projects I've worked on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'd like to thank you for all of your expertise and effort and thoughtfulness and energy that you've brought to what we're doing. It's been nice getting to know you.
Thank you.
And I really enjoy running into you in all some of my favorite other places around the Encinitas.
And I'd like to add that I'd like to thank all the commissioners that are leaving today in their last meeting. And we certainly enjoyed working with you and wish you the best.
Well, thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure, I'll be in the infrastructure task force for a year, so who knows, I'll maybe return after the year.
Yeah. Good on you, Navardo, for volunteering yourself and getting on. That was actually sort of seemed like a last minute thing and became very competitive at the last minute. There were a lot of people who went out for that task force, and that's awesome that I think they're gonna do great with your expertise on that. And it's been lovely serving with you, Kathleen and Irene and Jeff, and thank you guys for all your hard work. And that said, I'm gonna go enjoy a Kino's burger and maybe a Kino's beer. So let's adjourn this meeting, a regular meeting on Monday, February 6th of the Commission for the Arts of the City of Encinitas at 6:42 p.m.